Hey, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you. So we're in my where I usually do my sacred talking circles. I have some pretty cool stuff with me. I always have a candle. I have my turtles, which to me are grandmother turtle and how she carried the world on her back, how the world was created on her back. So I keep my sage, which I always like to light a little bit before I do my fires. Give me that sense, that sensory to get me present to where I need to be. And then whenever we do our calls, I have my sacred talking feather too. Now, every woman who's in the group creates her own space for herself. And some of the things we had this week's last night, and some of the things that we cover are exactly the topic today: how to heal from a narcissistic mother before you end up being her caretaker, or sometimes after you end up being her caretaker. So, I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body mind expert and I'm a shiatsu massage therapist. And I've spent the last 12 years creating, really holding a sacred space for women who have had uh, narcissists in their life, whether they were bipolar, whether they were borderline personality, whether they were Asperger's, whether it was their mother, their father, their son, their husband, their twin flame, whatever it may be. There's a lot of similarities. And so today on this live stream, we're going to be talking a little bit about mothers, because in reality, a lot of women are walking around who had very, very challenging childhoods, not because of the typical narcissistic father, which there tends to be a lot of support for that, but for the less common, but still very dark and hard and even more damaging in a lot of ways, damaging in a lot of different ways, a narcissistic mother. So, we're going to explore that. Let's explore that a little bit today. So, before I go too far, I have to reassure my own mother: no, mom, you were not a narcissistic mother. However, I have had over the years hundreds of women come into my life. And it almost seems as if that the majority who've struggled the most, who've done the most work, who have the hardest time, because there's all these layers, from even before birth, from being in the womb, or adoption, where women ended up with narcissistic mothers. And that wound really cut so deep. And then the freaky twist is most of these women are compassionate and empathic and loving and wonderful. And so they end up being the ones who are their mother's caretaker when their mother starts to get Alzheimer's, or their mother starts to get very ill, or you have to put her into, or there's a retirement home involved, or a nursing home involved, or uh, dad dies, or it was a single mother. All of those things start to come up. You're able to avoid them for a while. There are a couple decades. You moved out, you got on your own feet, you created your own relationships, and now you're looking to the future and realizing that you have a narcissistic mother and that you better figure some of this stuff out, because otherwise it's going to rip you apart. I can't tell you how many women who had very difficult mothers ended up in these situations where their mothers are living with them now, and they're caretaking them, and they're elderly and they're older, and sometimes the problems get worse and sometimes the problems get better, but they've lived their whole life with this woman who, from conception, before conception, at her conception, because every girl when she's born has the eggs of the next generation of those, of the possibility of birth. So you, as an egg, have probably been exposed to narcissistic women for a few different generations. So this makes it a very difficult wound to heal, not just psychologically, but also on the body mind level. you've been imprinted and entrained to a lot of these difficult, painful experiences and thoughts and beliefs and ideas from a very long time ago. Well, let me tell you, if you don't start doing your work, your family work, it's much more difficult. It can be much more difficult after they pass, because then the opportunities to get some of the things that you needed for you to find some inner peace, for you to get any sort of uh, shift or change uh, before she dies. You gotta look at that stuff. So how do you do it? How do you go from a woman who has spent her entire existence being completely self-absorbed, and you were collateral damage, you were virtually nothing, you were left beside the side of the road, emotionally and mentally. How do you deal with this? Well, what happens is a shift happens. You start to recognize that you are no longer a victim to her mental illness, and that she no longer has that level of power over you. So that requires a certain amount of positive experiences in growing up. Now, you certainly, one of the best ways to reverse some of this narcissistic stuff is to have positive, meaningful, beautiful experiences with other women. One of the things that happens is we get a little stunted in areas when when one of your parents is a narcissist. And in order to move through those, you need experiences that help you evolve and mature like you were supposed to, that help you look at the world through a healthy lens like you were supposed to when you were growing up. But instead, you got gaslighting, and you got tantrums, and you got emotional chaos, and you got a family that really dropped the ball. Because a lot of times, if a mother is a narcissist, what happens is the father is someone who ends up disconnected, who ends up emotionally out of the picture, or emotionally incapable of helping his children, because he just can't even grasp the mental illness that's involved with a narcissistic mother. And so you not only got the abuse and the gaslighting and the tantrums and the emotions and the self-absorption of a mother, but then you typically got the neglect or emotional disconnect from a father. You really got a doozy. You got a doozy of things to work through. One of my favorite ways to work through these things is to find women who are who are caring, compassionate, loving, empathic, a lot like you, and get the experiences that you always needed, of someone being able to hear you, of someone being present to you, of someone giving a damn about you, of someone who understands how important it is to give as well as receive. Now, where do you find these miracle women? Well, some women go to, where you think you would find healthy women. They go to healing groups, they get involved in Reiki, they get involved with massage, they get involved with energy healers. They seek out these groups, and there are a lot of lovely women in these groups. But remember, a lot of these groups attract other women who are really struggling. And without a good guiding light, without someone who's done their own work, without someone who can facilitate the process, then all of those same behaviors, the same reactions, the same manipulation, the same ickiness comes up all over again. But now it's in group form. Yay! You have to be very particular when you're starting to heal your relationship with your mother, or that relationship inside of yourself that you had with your mother. It's super important to be mindful, because if you aren't, you're going to land in the same sort of high school, college drama, crazy woman stuff that you're trying to leave. But when you do find women who are doing their own work, who are just like you, who understand, who don't judge, who have a lot of life experience, who've been successful in their own right. They've already done a lot of their work. They're already on the path. You are able to get the things that you always needed and you always craved. And until you start to get these things, you won't be able to heal that wound because you'll be trapped and stuck through all those body experiences and body memories that you got from growing up. All of those nervous system reactions and mental reactions and patterns of thinking that were imprinted on you, that you naturally adopted because you had no other answers. You need to start to reverse those, and the only way to reverse them is when you're hurting, to have a woman who listens. When you're lonely, to have a woman who sits with you. When you're broken, to have a woman who helps you through your tears. When you're suffering, to have a woman who's able to be present with your suffering without making it about them. When you start to get these natural, important experiences that you were always meant to have, things start to shift in you. You start to move forward. You're able to take those steps. And it's tough to get that stuff in therapy because in a therapy experience, it's still that power struggle. It's still the professional and the person who's broken. Now, you're not necessarily broken, you're not broken. However, you do need some things that you've maybe never been able to get before. And if you just go out willy nilly looking for people anywhere, women anywhere, you'll find that the majority of them had pretty messed up thoughts and probably a narcissistic mother too, who imprinted them and shaped them. And they're not able to be present to you because they're still struggling with their wounds. But when you actively seek out women who get it, when you actively seek out women who have been through your experiences, who are moving to a higher plane of living, who are breaking out of those patterns of narcissistic relationships, whether they be with women or men, when they start to get the love and the nourishment and the nurturing and the care and the compassion and the connection and the depth that you were supposed to get, that you needed in order to be the best, most incredible, cool version of yourself, that's when you start to heal. Because it's difficult to heal when you still have a big gaping hole, black hole of emptiness where you don't have a mother's or a woman's love and care. So if you're looking towards the future and you know you're the nice one who will probably end up having to still deal with a narcissistic mother who's still manipulating you, who's now living with you, who's yelling at your kids, who has tantrums, who's bipolar, who's borderline, who is unpredictable, who loves you adoringly one second and hates you with a passion the next, and finds every way that they can to confuse and make you crazy. If that's what you're looking towards, get help now. Get help now before you end up too far, because the side effects of this are pretty tough. The side effects of not healing end up, as disease, end up as heart problems, end up as digestive problems, and they get worse when you personally get older. They start turning into big problems that you can't necessarily compensate for. And now there's hospital visits and doctor's visits. And, it's time to heal that stuff. Because if you don't heal it, you're going to get sicker and sicker and sicker. And then you're going to end up angry and resentful. And that is not a way to spend your time. That's not who you're supposed to be. That's not where you're supposed to go. So the best way to heal that stuff with your mom is to find appropriate substitutes, appropriate women who can give you those things that you really truly needed but didn't get when you needed them. Now, if you're looking for something like that, Fortunately, I've spent a lot of time, we've spent a lot of time creating a beautiful village of women, and we're ready to expand. We're ready to grow. We're ready to, make this available to more women, but we're going to limit it to 40 because if it gets too much bigger than that, then it's a problem. So when we hit 40, the price is going to, like quadruple. And we're going to be very mindful and thoughtful about who ends up in the group. We're already mindful and thoughtful, but there won't be a lot of room that's left. So if you want 2020 to be a better year, to prepare you for you getting older, to prepare you for the next chapter of your life. Your kids might be leaving the nest. This is finally your freedom. And then you look and you see that you're sandwiched between a wedding and a mom with Alzheimer's, between a new baby, a new grandbaby, and a parent that's living with you that, or looking to live with you, or that you're the main one who visits and looks after her needs. You're going to end up in a tough situation. You might already be there now. Anyways, there's a lot of help. So this beautiful women's group that we've been running, we meet every week. We also have the daily live streams. We also have our private village on Facebook where you can connect. You get almost instant friends, women who get it, women who understand where you're coming from. A lot of them had narcissistic mothers, and they've been doing their own great healing work. Successful women, women who, they're smart and funny and interesting, entrepreneurs and artists and doctors and therapists, and they're so cool. And I'd love it if you could join us. So if you're looking to make 2020 a little bit better than it was, reach out, let me know. I'll send you the link. See if it's a good fit for you. We're keeping it super affordable until we get to 40 women. Super accessible. You can check us out a little bit if you want. Just let me know. You can see what one of the calls or show up on one of the live streams and see whether it's a good fit for you. See whether this is the direction you want to go, because it doesn't have to be as difficult as it seems. There's actually a switch that it kind of ends up getting flipped, where you go from victim to realizing that your mother was victimized too, to realizing that she struggled just as much as you did, and this was the best that she knew how. And you start to learn the tools that you need and the things to say, and you get the support that you need to be really present and to be the person that you want to be, someone who's loving and caring and compassionate and thoughtful. And you're able to become that person and heal that wound, and not keep looking to women who are incapable of being present, who are incapable of giving you the mother's love that you needed, or the female energy, or the feminine energy, or that connection that you always needed. They're incapable of it. And now you're in the position of being the adult or the caretaker. And it's actually not a bad position to be in, because you're able to step out of that role of child and into that role of woman who's reclaimed so many parts of her soul and so many parts of her heart. So if you're interested, let me know. Put a comment somewhere, send me a message, drop me a line, put up a red flag, send up a flare. Let me know so that I can send you the link and you can start to, really, really get the help that you've always wanted, way beyond therapy, way beyond support groups. This is something that's a higher level of beingness that you can use to walk confidently and wonderfully into that next chapter of your life and make it the best you can. All of 2020. That's what we're doing it. So have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy Friday. And I will talk to you on Monday. Reach out. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Bye.